Zach, how you doing, brother?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks
Thank you.
for having me.
Thank you for coming here today. For those of you who don't know, Zach is a sommelier at Barry's Steakhouse at Circa. Thank you for coming in here today, brother. Let me just say a little bit. I went to Circa the first month that opened. You were gracious enough to invite me in, and what an amazing experience it was. The steak, but most important, and why we're here today, the wine. And let me ask you a little bit of this. How did you decide to become a sommelier?
So it's a very interesting story. Of course, nobody decides just to become a sommelier.
Absolutely.
But I'll give you just a little bit of a background of me. So I was born in during the communism in Eastern Europe in
Okay.
a country called Bulgaria.
Okay.
In a city called Varna, and that city is one of the oldest cities in the world. The history is over 7,000 years.
Okay.
So I grew up over there, and after I'll be self-employed for probably the most of my early life.
Yes.
And at some point, a friend recommended me to a wine distributor.
Okay.
And he told me, hey, I know you. You do really great. Let's go over there. So I started working at the wine distributor in my home city of Varna.
Oh, so you've been doing this for a while then?
So yeah, this was in the early 2000s and 2010, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
And because of that, I was able to travel around the country and visit all the wine regions and most of the wineries.
Okay.
And this is how I got my passion for wine.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And then the story becomes even more interesting.
A little bit more interesting.
Yeah. So during that period, I met a girl.
There's always a girl, brother.
Always
There
a
is
girl,
always
yeah,
a girl.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank God.
Yes. Yes.
So I met this girl. She was vacationing in Bulgaria, in Varna, for the summer.
Okay.
And fast forward, we fall in love. Now she's my wife.
Okay.
We have two beautiful daughters.
Yes, you do.
And she happened to live here in Las Vegas. So she shipped me all the way from Varna
Okay.
to Las Vegas. I think this happened in 2012. So we live in Vegas since then.
Well, let me ask you this though. Does she like wine?
Yes. Actually, she loves wine. She's also a wine professional.
Yes.
However, she's on the other side. She's in sales. Right
Yes,
now,
yes.
she has her own business. She helps small family-owned brands to find their market and place here in Las Vegas.
Well, big shout out to Violeta. Yes, she's a professional as well. Zach, how did you you obviously have a passion for wine, but what kind of training does it take to be a sommelier? How do you develop a taste for wines, or what do you go? Is there a school? What's the deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can be in wine business and you can be wine aficionado or wine professional, but doesn't make you a sommelier. Sommelier usually means a person who works at a restaurant, at a wine bar, and sells wine to guests.
Okay.
So in order to be a sommelier, you have to combine a couple things. You have to know the wine, the theory, when this wine is coming from, who's the winemaker.
Yes.
But also you have to know how this wine tastes.
Right.
And also you have to know the business of wine. How much is this wine? Because there are wines in all different price ranges.
And that's always the question, especially when you go to a nice restaurant, you go there with your girl. I don't know anything about wine, so if somebody comes in like a sommelier like yourself, and I'm ordering, let's say steak, since it's a steakhouse, and then the sommelier asks you, well, would you like a steak to go with wine? How do you? I mean, if you're in front of a girl, you don't want to talk
Embarrass
about
yourself.
embarrass
Yeah,
yourself.
absolutely.
So, what do you do when somebody comes in, a new person to the wine tasting and in your restaurant, and how do you gauge how expensive that glass of wine is going to be for somebody that asks, "Hey, what do you recommend?"
So this is the $1 million question.
Absolutely,
And wine, frankly, is very intimidating,
very
especially for people who doesn't know much. There are so many regions, so many grape varietals. There is this and that, and especially old world wines. You read the label and you don't have any idea. Is this the name of the winery? Is this the name of the region? Is this the
Okay.
name of the wine? Is this the
Okay.
name of the grape? You look at the label and you're like, is this a white wine? Is it a red
Right.
wine?
Okay.
So very intimidating.
yes.
So this is where a sommelier comes to help.
Yes. So, what are the ranges of? I mean, in a restaurant environment, it's going to be a little bit different than if you go to the store and buy wine. But what's a good wine for those of you who are listening there? What's a good wine that you can go to the store? Maybe don't break the wallet, but something that is good quality and that is gonna. It's if I come to your house with this bottle of wine, you're gonna say, okay, you know what, this was nice, which is hard to do because I've been to your house and you have an incredible collection of wines. But what is the price range on a good bottle of wine outside the restaurant?
So you're asking me another $1 million question.
I'm asking you a lot of good questions today.
And I think I have to start charging you
yes.
because those questions are very, very hard
Yeah.
to answer.
Yes.
So what is a good wine? We can have conversation for weeks and months
Got it.
on that topic.
Yes, yes.
Actually, all the topics today will be just scratching the surface. Maybe don't even scratch the surface.
completely get it.
It's such a big
Yeah.
topic that it's hard to synthesize this in a
Yes.
couple of sentences. But to start, what is a good wine? A good wine is a wine that you enjoy.
Yes.
And when I'm saying you, I mean you personally, because our tastes are different.
Correct.
So a wine that I might enjoy, you wouldn't like, or the other way around.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And usually those tastes are based on experience.
Okay.
Usually, the more you drink, the more you try different wines, your palate develops and your taste develops. When you start, let's say you're a beer drinker or a whiskey drinker,
Yes.
usually there is a certain type of wine that can bring you to the fold.
Okay.
And you start with that. You can order such type of wine in a restaurant initially without feeling intimidated.
Yes. Yeah.
Looking at those 50 pages wine lists.
It's incredible.
And then eventually, when you become a little bit more comfortable, you'll start asking a sommelier or a wine steward or in a store, wine professional, to expand your knowledge a little bit. You can go, for example, hey, currently I'm enjoying this type of wine or this producer or this region or anything. Can you recommend something that is similar in the same price range?
I understand.
Because the price range is another topic. For example, at the Steakhouse at Barry's, where I run the wine program right now,
Yeah.
I have wines. I have 650 different wines on the list,
Okay.
and they start by the bottle at $55 all the way to $15,000, and everything in between.
Well, okay. Let me ask you this: if for the untrained palate, like somebody like me, well, I've drank wine for the last 20 years, and you're right. At the first time that I drink wine, I was like, "What is this?" But then, as I started to enjoy it, I think, especially with when I've been invited to places like with yourself, that you bring out this incredible wine that I have. Is there a huge? I mean, can somebody with no experience tell the difference between a $15,000 glass of wine and a $50 glass of wine?
Yes, but in a bad way. What I mean is,
Okay.
let's say I pour you a $50, $15 or whatever $50 bottle of fruity Napa Cabernet.
Okay.
And then I pour you one of the most expensive wines in the world, let's say from Burgundy or from Bordeaux region in France,
Okay.
which is could be 15,000 a bottle, could be 50,000 a bottle.
Okay.
You taste both of them, and most cases you'll be like, "What the hell is the second one? Tastes like
Little
ugh."
different. Yeah.
And if I tell you the price, you will be like, "Oh my god, this is horrible."
Okay.
So this answers the question: is the more expensive wine tastes better than a less expensive wine, or
It's an acquired
even,
taste.
or even young wine tastes better than older
Older
wine,
wine.
or the other way around?
So
So in wine, it's not like math. 2 + 2 is not 4. Everything is relative. It's usually based on your personal experience as a wine drinker, but also it's based on your background. For example, let's say if your parents they introduce you to wine, you might like different wines. Let's say you come from a culture that enjoys wine,
yes, right. It's a little different than
Yeah,
somebody that
yeah.
hasn't been
or
brought up.
culture that drink maybe beer, or they drink something else, or they don't drink at all, maybe religious reasons or other reasons, healthy reasons.
It's actually very good that you mentioned that. It has nothing to do with price. It's got to do with what you like. That's
Price is subjective.
right.
That's why as a sommeliers we are trained to blind taste wine, which means we taste wine in a glass without looking at the label.
Let's talk about
Because
that.
you're looking at the label,
And it may influence you on what it is.
absolutely, big time.
I've seen some videos where they get the glass of wine, they taste it, and then they start describing the kind of flavors, the kind of smells, earthy, dry, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. How do you prepare for that stuff?
Training.
A lot
Training.
of drinking.
I can guarantee you, every single one of us at the beginning of our career, we probably had the same type of palate like everybody else on the
Okay.
planet.
Yes.
And most definitely the same vocabulary or the lack of vocabulary
Right.
like everybody else. But you can train your palate the same way you train your vocabulary. And also, I'll give an example. It's like meeting new people and trying to remember their names and put their names to their faces.
Got it.
So when you see them again, hey, John, good to see you again, versus, I remember, I don't remember.
That makes total sense. Well, I mean, in your career, how many different wines have you tried? If there is even a number that is even doable, I mean, do you even have that? Is that even possible?
It will be probably in the hundreds of thousands.
And you mentioned how many bottles of selections of wine do you have at Barry's?
650 different bottles of wine.
You're in charge of getting the wine at Barry's. How do you decide? What I mean, Barry's being an amazing steakhouse here in Las Vegas. How do you decide what wine? And another question is, do you have all of these vendors trying to get into Barry's? I'm sure that you do. How do you decide which wines are going to make it into the restaurant?
So first of all, let's tell our guests that we wine professionals. As I mentioned earlier, we taste wine blindly. However, when we taste wine, we don't drink it; we spill it. Because I'll give an example. You come to my restaurant, to a wine vendor, you bring 20 different wines.
Right.
Imagine if I taste every single wine and I swallow just a small portion of it.
You're going to be partying a little bit.
After the fifth wine,
Yeah.
everything else will taste amazing. Because
I've-
I'll be so...
yes.
So in order to make a real assessment of the wine, you have to spill it and you have to taste it blindly. Because labels, they will change your
Perception.
on a subconscious level.
Absolutely.
Especially for labels that you're familiar with.
Yes.
You you know, and you know how much the wines, how much they cost, and this will tip the scales,
Yes, yes.
and you'll be surprised. Um, Sometimes you put maybe $100 wines in a blind tasting, and you throw a $50 wine, and that wine might be better than all the other wines.
That's very interesting. Why don't you walk us through a normal day at Barry's? What is your day, your daily situation? How do you get there? What is it that you do?
So usually, my day there'll be two parts. The first part will be admin,
Okay.
and I'll do my one wine admin before the service starts. Let's say we open the doors at 5 every
Yes.
day. So usually I'll go earlier, maybe 2 to 3 p.m. So I have a couple hours to answer emails, to check my emails, to decide what wines I will bring in, put on the list, to do some wine list maintenance, because when you have so many different wines,
Yes.
you cannot have all the wines at the same time. And also, you can have the wine, but the vintage can change.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's not just ABC wine, it's ABC wine 2020 vintage. When 2021 vintage comes, it's a totally new wine.
And a different taste and different price and
Yeah.
different everything.
Yeah, could be everything, because Mother Nature is different every year, and the weather conditions are different. And even in one region, for example, Napa, which is very small wine region, you can have a microclimate. So my vineyard could be kind of the vintage could be mediocre, and your vineyard is like a mile away, but on a hill.
And it's
And
maybe
yeah,
better.
Yeah,
And it may be better. That's very interesting. So you have to be very knowledgeable in regards to region, what kind of environment and weather this thing has. That will have an impact on the wine as you go on. This is a very broad question. Red with steak or white with steak, or how do you pair fish and stuff? And that's $1 million question too.
yeah. First of all, let me tell you what is the best quality that you need to have as a sommelier:
Okay.
to be humble,
Okay.
humility,
Yes.
because we are all in hospitality
Yes.
business.
Yeah.
When you come to my restaurant, you come to celebrate your birthday, or you come with your girlfriend to celebrate your anniversary.
Yeah.
You want to have a good time.
That's definitely
You
true.
don't want to come and me coaching you and telling you how little you know and how wrong you are.
That is very important, especially if you're there with your girl and you want to impress her. You come in and all of a sudden everything I said is wrong, and you try to correct me. That wouldn't go too well.
Yeah, yeah. And this is not our job. Our job is to help you make choices in the price range that you have in your head.
How do you know what price range they have in their head?
So back in the days was easy. I'll look at you. I'll look at your shoes. I'll look at your watch.
Yeah.
I'll look at your
How you look?
shirt.
How you look?
How
Yeah.
I look. And maybe I'll have a good idea how much money you want to spend.
Yes.
Nowadays, I'll look at your watch. Everybody wears Apple Watch.
Everybody wears an Apple Watch.
Yeah. I'll look at your shoes. You'll be wearing training shoes or
Yeah.
fancy sneakers. And right now, there is no way to tell. If somebody can tell you that they can guess how much money somebody can spend on a bottle of wine in a restaurant, they're lying to you.
They're completely lying to you.
Yeah.
They're completely lying to you.
Because especially in Vegas,
Yes.
most of the restaurants, they're inside big
Casinos,
hotels.
yeah.
And you have pools, you have spas, and sometimes you have a couple guys with nice suits and shiny shoes. And then there will be a couple other guys with flip-flops and shorts, and they will be at the bar, and
They'll be spending some heavy money.
yeah.
it comes down to don't judge the book by its cover. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Especially here in Vegas, you
you
never
never
know.
know. You never know.
You never know.
I'll tell you like crazy stories. For example, in a different restaurant, a couple guys they come at the bar. The bar is very small. There's only one chair available. One guy sits at the chair. The other guy is kind of next to him. And they're like, "Hey, can we have a wine list? We want to do a bottle of wine." I'm like, "Sure. What do you guys want to do?" And they will select, I don't know, like $4,000, 1999 red Burgundy.
Okay.
And I'm like, "Oh wow."
But you're wearing flip flops, bro.
Yeah, and no, I mean, I wouldn't say anything, but I'll be like, "Okay, would you like me to bring you another chair?"
Yeah.
He goes, "Oh no, we'll just kill it quickly, and then we'll head back to the pool." And I'm like, "Okay, let me bring you some bottled water at least." "Oh no, tap water is fine."
Okay.
You can
You
never
never
tell.
know.
You can never tell.
What are some of the trends? I know that for a while there were some trendy wines. There was the rosé. Everybody was drinking rosé. I think you and I got drunk one day on a rosé. If I'm
Especially
not,
at the pool.
especially at the
Yeah.
pool, yes. So, are there any trends happening right now that is a popular wine that is coming in either through because of social media or because somebody decided to say this is the wine? Is there anything today that is trending?
Yeah, actually, right now the wine sales in general are in decline
Okay.
because young people they don't drink that much wine. Actually, they don't drink in general. Maybe they use other recreational
Yeah.
stuff.
Sure.
But now all the most of the wineries, the global brands, they're trying to cater to those millennials and younger people. So canned wine will be a pretty big thing.
Can wine.
Yeah, like a beer in a can, but
Oh,
wine. Yeah.
a can wine.
Yeah, can
Oh,
wine.
okay.
Yeah.
You know, I just had water on a can, and I thought that was a different experience. It was water, but
Yeah.
it felt completely different. That's very
So this way is nothing fancy. You don't need a wine key,
Smart.
a corkscrew.
Smart.
You just pop it, and that's it.
What are some of the misconceptions people have about wine? When you know, like I think of wine a certain way, but what is the most misconception that you have heard that you go, well, that's actually not true?
We already covered a couple of those. One misconception is that expensive wine tastes better.
Okay, that's
The other misconception is that older wine tastes better. Actually, older wines taste different than younger wine.
Okay.
And some people enjoy older wines,
is,
like myself.
okay.
And some people enjoy younger wines. Just keep in mind that 95% of all the wines that are produced around the world are meant to be drink 2 years after the grapes are harvested. So let's say when you see a vintage on the label, let's say this wine is 2020, means that the grapes were harvested in 2020 growing season. It means that this wine has to be consumed in 2-3 years. That's it.
Oh,
And
okay.
Only 4 or 5% of all the wines in the world are meant to be aged, and they become better with aging.
Is that why the prices are so high on
Yeah.
because there's
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
there's only a few?
And also keep in mind that you make a product, and instead of putting that product on the market and get your
shelve
money
it.
back, you shelve it in your cellar for 5, 10, 20 years, and you cannot make any revenue from that.
Let me ask you this: Can that wine go wrong?
Yeah, yeah.
It can.
So with older wines, especially wines that are 30, 50 plus years old, no matter if you're storing it the right way and everything is perfect, you still have, I'll say, 50-50 chance the wine to be corked or bad or off or gone.
That's a big investment and a lot of time waiting. Just because it could go wrong, like you said, even if you store it correctly. And I heard that you have to store it on the side. Or is that true, or can you store it like a normal bottle?
I thought the same thing, but recently I read an article that it's this myth of laying on the side is kind of disproved.
Okay.
But the whole thing, have you ever thought why people age wine.
That was actually my next question. What is the whole purpose of it? It's, I mean, based on what you're telling me, is it flavor or why is the main reason that people do that?
So when you make a wine and you put it in the bottle, if you put a regular cork, I mean natural cork
Yeah.
is a bark of a tree.
Yes.
So the wine breathes through that cork.
Oh, I see.
No matter that we use the cork to stop the wine, to close it, there is still
It's going to be breathing.
yeah. However, it's the very fine line between air goes down into the bottle, wine kind of breathes and matures, but just the right amount, because if it's the wrong amount, the wine will turn into a vinegar. So it's a constant battle not to turn your wine into a vinegar, but to make it better.
And that takes, I'm assuming that it has to be an expert to try to do that, even storing it. And you can still get it wrong and have vinegar instead of nice wine. What's your favorite wine?
So I'm a huge fan of red wines, red Burgundies, red
Okay.
and white Burgundies. Burgundy is a region in France. And for white wines, I'm a huge friend, of course, and
Yes.
huge fan of German Rieslings.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
those German Rieslings, they could be very dry, very sweet, and everything in between.
Explain to me when people say this is dry wine for a guy like me that doesn't know about wines. When I hear that, I go, what do you mean dry? I mean it's liquid. Can you describe, if it's possible to describe, what does dry mean?
So the way we describe wine is the same way chefs describe food.
Okay.
You can use the same adjectives.
Okay.
This wine is delicious. This wine is fruity. This wine is sour. This wine
see.
is highly acidic, and you can go on and on.
Oh, I see.
Here, we're touching on another misconception in wine. People think fruity wine is a sweet wine, and this is not the case.
Okay.
Usually, in order to make a sweet wine, I have to go back how we make wine.
Yes.
So you ferment the grapes,
Yeah.
and during the fermentation, you have these small microorganisms called yeast. They eat the sugar in the grape,
Okay.
and there are two byproducts. One is CO2 that has to go away, or if you catch the CO2, this is how you make sparkling wine, champagne, if you catch it in the bottle.
Very
If
interesting.
you release it,
Very interesting.
it will be still wine.
Okay.
And then the other byproduct is alcohol.
Let's talk about that. What is the average alcohol level on a bottle of wine? Are there differences between wines?
Yeah, big differences. So for still wines, white wines, they start at around 5%.
Okay.
And they can go all the way to around 14%. Red wines, they're usually higher in alcohol. Usually they're 12, 11-ish percent to 16%.
Oh, wow.
And then you have another category of fortified wines, like port, sherry, Madeira, and also sake. Over there, the alcohol by volume can go up to 18 or 19%.
So that'll get you going.
Oh yeah.
That'll get you going. You travel a lot, Zach. How's Las Vegas wine scene compared to other major cities that you've been on?
If you want to work in the wine business, especially in the restaurant wine business as a sommelier, probably Las Vegas is top 3 in the world.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're a mecca of wine. We have so many fine dining restaurants. We have so many restaurants with a great wine programs.
Yes.
For example, there is this Wine Spectator Wine Award,
Yes.
which there are 3 levels. It's the 3rd level is called Grant Award. There are only 94 restaurants around the world they have grant award.
And I'm assuming a lot of them are here in Vegas.
Yeah, here in Vegas we have 4 of them.
Okay, so we as people that we live here in Vegas, we have all of these options of going and having an amazing experience. Which, by the way, I was lucky enough to be with you at Barry's on the first month that they opened, and I gotta tell you, twice we went there, and the first time it was great, and the second time it was great. So it was both great experiences. I don't remember what wine you brought, brother, but it was just an incredible experience because all of a sudden my food tasted better, and I didn't realize how important it was to have that combination. You brought a couple of different. There was a white wine, and then there was a red. And I noticed that you brought the white when we were having the shrimp.
The
thing.
shellfish, yeah.
Yeah,
The
the shellfish.
tower, yeah.
Yeah, and then when we went to steak, you changed it immediately, and
Yeah.
it made a big difference. Is that what most people do when they go to these high end places? Are they good enough to do change the wines, or is that where you come in and you go, hey, listen, by the way, this is where you need to go?
So again, there are no rules.
Correct.
However,
Yes.
if you wanna enjoy variety of wines and pair them with different foods,
Yes.
you can start with bubbles or still white wine for the shellfish. For let's say if you have a seafood tower,
Yep, yep.
and then you can move to light body red for the appetizers. And then let's say if you have some protein steaks, you can go with full body wine, let's say Old World from Bordeaux, or maybe a big and bold Cabernet from Napa. And then with the food desserts, you can have liquid dessert, some dessert wine.
Well, that was my next question. There is a dessert wine as well? Is that sweeter? Is that like a more like a dessert, or how does that go? Is that something that you only drink with dessert, or is that a normal glass of wine that you could have any day without eating?
You can go both ways. You can pair those wines with desserts, let's say with chocolate cake or key lime pie
Yes,
or
yes.
tiramisu, but also you can sip and savor them just by themselves. I'll tell you a fun fact. Yesterday was our Independence Day,
Yes.
4th of July.
Yes, yes.
Guess what wine was our founding fathers drinking while after they signed the
Declaration of
yeah.
Independence. That's a great question. What kind of wine were they drinking?
They were drinking Madeira.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Madeira is a type of fortified wine. It comes from an island in the Atlantic Ocean, which is former Portugal colony.
Okay.
It's 500 miles away from Portugal, but very close to the African coast. So over there, actually another fun fact, Madeira is the only wine in the world that can never go bad, can never get spoiled. It's indestructible. You can buy a bottle of Madeira, open it, taste it, put the open bottle on your kitchen countertop, and come back and retaste it after a year, after 5 years,
It'll
after
be the
50
same.
years, it will taste exactly the same.
So that's what they were drinking and the Independence Day Madeira.
And this wine was created by necessity because back in the 1500s, when Europe, they were trying to find a way to India.
Yeah.
I'm doing air quotes.
Yes.
And they found America. When they tried to supply the new colonies here in America, whatever they put on the ship, food, wine, anything,
It would go bad.
it will go bad because the voyage was
Too
3
long,
to
yeah.
8 months, and everything was barren by heat and harsh conditions.
Sure.
So this is how those wines were created.
That's insane.
And if you wonder how IPA beer was invented,
Yes.
it's the same way.
Was that the
but,
same?
to the east, IPA means Indian Pale Ale. When British were trying to supply their
I
colony,
thought it was a brand.
no, it's a style of beer.
Oh, wow.
So you add a lot of hops, which act as a preservative. And this is what gets you through those, back in the days, 6 months of sea voyage.
That is very, very interesting. What are some of the challenges that you face in your line of work? We talk about, you working at a very nice place and being, I could imagine being a very demanding and stressful situation at sometimes, because I've been at Barry's and it gets crowded and you guys are going at 100 miles an hour. What are some of the challenges that you face as a sommelier here in Vegas as opposed to any other city in the world?
To answer your question is, I have to tell you that I don't consider this as a job.
Awesome.
I love what I'm doing, and this is what I do for a living.
Yes.
And this gives me a pleasure, and I'm enjoying it. So there is almost nothing that can throw me off when I'm in the restaurant helping my guests select wine. Because let's face it, what is the worst thing that can happen to me if you ask me for a recommendation? I recommend you a wine and you don't like it.
Another question that I have, and this is a very good question. I used to thought of this. I see that when you order a bottle of wine, sommelier comes in, they open the wine for you, they pour it on the glass, and then they do the test, they smell it. What happens if I don't like it?
Okay, so there are two parts. In most fine dining restaurants, when a guest order a bottle of wine, then the sommelier will grab the bottle, approach the guest, show the label, and read back the label, the order. So this way, we can assure this is exact wine that you ordered, the same vintage, everything is the same. Mm-hmm. So afterwards, we'll open the wine, and most cases, we'll taste the wine. So our job is to make sure the wine is not corked and the wine is sound, the wine is not bad. And then I'll give you, as a guest, a taste so you can tell me if the wine is to your likings or not. I'm not asking you to tell me if the wine is sound or not. This is my job.
Okay.
Or the wine is corked or anything. I'm asking you to tell me, are you enjoying this wine? Is this what you were expecting? And then, if you say yes, I'll go ahead and I'll pour in the glasses. If you say no, I'll ask you probably a couple follow-up questions. What is not to your liking? Is it to this, to that? And then my next question will be, you don't like this particular bottle of wine, so would you like me to bring another bottle of the same wine?
Okay.
Or would you like me to bring you a different wine that is more towards your taste, whatever that might be? And then I'll take the first bottle away. It will never go on the check, and I'll never make you feel bad. And also, on my back end, probably I wouldn't have any loss. And if it's for a wine under, in a fine dining restaurant, maybe $300-400,
Yeah.
I'll never ask you anything else than those two questions. Would you like me to bring another bottle of the same or a different wine?
Okay.
And at the end of the night, I will, or maybe later, I'll assess the wine. If the wine is fine, I might be able to sell it by the glass.
You're right.
Or I can do staff training to show it to my colleagues. Or if the wine is bad, then I'll send it back to my distributor.
Okay.
They'll give me a credit for that. And most cases, my distributor will send it back to the producer or to the importer or to the winery. And
Does that happen a lot?
no, actually, not very often after COVID.
After COVID, because everybody lost the sense of smell. Is that what happened?
Yep.
Is that true?
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But to tell our guests, if you don't like a bottle of wine, don't hesitate. Talk to your som. Don't feel bad.
Well, that's great information,
Yeah.
and that actually goes to my next question. Do you train your staff when you're at the restaurant in regards to? Because I know that you guys get busy, and how many? There's a couple of sommeliers at one time. I don't know if you can cover the whole room because I've been there. I mean, it gets very crowded. Do you train your staff as well in wine training? Is that part of your job?
Yeah, absolutely. And our restaurant, Barry, is a monster restaurant. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
Usually we
Yes, it
do
is.
600 covers a night.
Wow.
And depend how busy we are, we'll run with one, two, or three different sommeliers. And the communication between us has to be pristine because you don't have time to two different somms to go to the same table
Yeah.
and ask the same questions.
Correct.
And of course, we do staff training almost daily at Barry's. That includes food, wine, service, all the aspects. And to expand on that, earlier you asked me, what is it to be a sommelier, and especially sommelier under the Court of the Master Sommeliers?
Yes.
This is one of the organizations that provide certifications.
Yeah.
So if you work in a restaurant, I'll highly recommend to do that training because it involves three different parts. You have theory, you have blind tasting, but also you have service. So there are 4 levels.
Which is super important, by the
Yeah.
way, when you going into a restaurant. That's
Yeah.
like the experience of the service is, I think, 50%. You know, of going to a nice place like Barry's or any other
Any other
steakhouse.
restaurant.
Yes.
Let me tell you more about the Court of Master Sommeliers. There are 4 levels. You start with introductory level, then there is a certified, advanced, and the top one is master. And a fun fact, there are more astronauts that went to the moon and came back than master sommeliers in the world.
Wow.
I think right now they're like a little bit under 300.
Wow.
So imagine
being one, having all of those.
Yeah, you have to commit at least 10 years of your life just tasting and learning and traveling and working in the industry in order to get that experience.
How important is it to continue get educated on your craft to maintain? I'm sure there's new wines every day. Do you have continuing education? Just like, you know, like I'm a real estate agent, I have to continue education because a lot changes. Do you guys have the same?
Yeah, actually, it's funny because this goes with humbleness. The more you know, the more you know that you don't know.
The more you, yeah, that's a great saying.
The more you learn, you realize how little you know.
Yes.
And it's a living matter. It's very organic, and it changes every day. Every day there is new wines, new vintages, new weather conditions, new wine laws around the world.
You're right.
Everything changes.
Right.
So in order to be on top of your game, you cannot say, "Oh, I'm a sommelier. I know everything."
Because everything is changing all the time.
Yeah, you will fall behind.
Yeah. So do you go? What I mean, I know you just came back from Napa. What is it that you do? Do you go to the places where they're making wine? Do they tell you what the weather is like, what the dirt is like, what kind of grapes are happening, and you have to take all of this knowledge? Is that something that you always have to consistently be on?
Yeah, we sommeliers consider ourselves the ambassadors between the wineries and the guest.
Okay.
Because you, as a normal person, you can go and visit wine regions, but in reality,
I wouldn't know.
how many wineries you can visit in 1 year? Maybe 4, maybe 5, maybe 10.
You would really have to spend a lot of time in it. Yes.
So this is what we do. We travel to wine regions, and we go to the wineries, and usually we meet with a winemaker, he or she, or the vineyard manager, and those people, they give us details. They bring us inside the cellar. They show us around how they make actual wine. They bring us in the cellar. We taste wine from the barrels.
Okay.
And then we get that knowledge and we transfer it to our guests.
Right.
Because it's very different if you go to a restaurant and you ask a sommelier, "Hey, what is this wine? I'm not familiar." And the sommelier gives you some bullshit explanation. "Oh, it's a great wine. It's $150. It's this and that." Or
They can go into the
me telling
history.
you, oh yeah, I visited the winery myself last
Absolutely,
year.
yeah.
They use this and they don't use that, and the vineyard is located on the top of the mountain, so you have one of the AVA on one side and the other one on the other side. It's totally different experience.
And it gets real specific to like even being on top of the mountain and how it's going to affect the different flavor on it.
It's pretty much being a car salesman, selling me a car without you ever driving this car.
Correct. And
It's
then
it's not real.
and it's also is like you said, everybody has different taste buds. So we don't know what my taste buds are, and that's your job as a professional to come in and kind of explain the whole process.
Yeah, so this is another part of the job. Usually, the guest doesn't have the best vocabulary to explain
Correct.
In plain English what they like or what they feel and
Yeah.
what they taste.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
So
sense.
you have to read in between the lines, and they will tell you something totally crazy, and you'll be like, I have something perfect for you.
Yeah.
And then you bring them something, and they're like, oh my God, this wine is amazing.
Well, and that's why you're a professional, because you could kind of, because of the lack of vocabulary that we have when we go into a restaurant like this, you can actually kind of pick up or lack of vocabulary and give us something that we might be describing.
Yeah, and also you're a guest. You don't need to have wine knowledge, vocabulary.
Right.
You don't need to have anything of that. This is where we come in.
Okay.
You just tell us, and I'll highly recommend that to our guests. Just talk to your sommelier. Tell them what you like, what you don't like, what you like to enjoy tonight, and most importantly, give them a price range.
Most importantly, I think, especially if you go to these places, you have to let them know what you're willing to spend. Because, like you mentioned, prices go from 50 to 15K.
Yeah, because like you have to give your wine person something to work with. You can tell me, oh, give me your best wine. Best wine for whom? For
Right,
you, for
right,
me, for
right,
somebody else?
right.
Is my best wine my most expensive wine? Is my best wine white, red, still, sparkling? Like, doesn't give you any information. So
Yes.
try to be a little bit more, to provide some type of information. So otherwise, I'm pretty good guessing.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why it's important to go and talk to a professional like yourself. Zach, what are your professional goals here for the next few years? What do you have planned?
So, as I mentioned earlier, right now, currently I'm the wine director at Barry's Downtown Prime at Circa.
Yeah.
And I run the wine program over there, which means that I'm not only working on the floor selling wine to my guests every night, but also I'm curating the wine list. I'm buying all the wine from the program,
Yeah.
and I'm training all of our staff.
Okay.
And then also, I have my own business, wine consulting.
Yes.
For example, I have clients who happen to be wealthy, and they just bought a new house, and they happen to have a wine cellar
Yeah.
in their house.
Absolutely.
And that wine cellar is 5,000 bottles, 20,000 bottles, and they need help to fill that wine cellar up with wine that will age well, and they'll enjoy it, and they might be even make some money on their investment, because eventually when you buy wine and it ages, the price
Well, that's a great topic. Wine as an investment. Is that a thing?
yeah, that I think usually it starts very, very I would say usually especially if you have kids,
Yes.
you start buying their bird vintages and you put them away. I want to have a case of wine of my daughter's bird vintage for her 21st birthday, or for her wedding, or for her graduation.
Okay.
And then eventually that becomes, okay, but that vintage is also going to be really good. So I might snatch a couple more cases and put them in the cellar too. And suddenly you're a wine collector. And then if you wait 10, 20, 30 years, you might be able to pay for your children's graduation with those wines.
That's insane. That's
However,
insane.
you have to know
Sure.
what to lay down.
Right, right. I mean, you're not gonna go about it at 7-Eleven and put those wines.
Because
Yeah,
remember, 95% of all the wine in the world doesn't
it's
sell
not
it.
meant. It's
Yeah.
not meant to be
Yeah.
vintage. Ah, interesting. Zach, what advice would you give? First of all, thank you so much for coming in today. But what advice would you give somebody that wants to become a sommelier? Somebody that's brand new to this game, is very interested in wine, and wants to take that path. What advice would you give them?
So I'll say about our Vegas scene.
Yes.
Probably the easiest way to get your foot through the door is to start working in a restaurant at a position, front of the house position, maybe a busser.
Yeah.
You'll start at the bottom, but this way you get relatively easy in the restaurant, and you'll start learning the culture,
Yes.
because every restaurant has different culture.
Absolutely.
And you'll be learning the ropes, and you will show to your superiors and to your colleagues that you wanna learn about that.
You have the drive too, and you want to
you
proceed.
have a drive, and if you're consistent and you study, trust me, very soon there will be an opportunity. Maybe you wouldn't be able to become a sommelier right away. Maybe there will be a position for a junior somm, or for a wine steward, or maybe even you might have to become a server,
Yeah.
and then sommelier. Because when you're a sommelier, there are two parts. One is wine knowledge, but wine knowledge is not everything, because you don't need a wine geek to tell you stuff about wine that you don't know,
It's
or
also
you don't need to know.
Personality matters
You
a lot.
need to have personal life experience.
Yes.
And another most important thing to being a sommelier is to listen.
Okay.
Because when you talk, you can hear only your voice. When you listen, you can get information from your guest, and you can make decisions what to open.
A very, very, very good point, Zach. Has any celebrities showed up to your place?
Just this week or in general?
In general, I mean, give us the list.
Yeah, Barry is a magnet for celebrities. First of all, last year we were very fortunate to have the entire team of Vegas Golden Knights.
All right.
After they won the championship,
Okay.
and had the parade on the strip.
Yes.
Afterwards, they came to Barry.
Yeah.
I think all the players with their families, and the team, there were like 80 people.
Oh, wow.
I opened really nice wines for them.
That's insane.
Yeah, and they were so gracious to sign. Actually, I opened a big 24-liter bottle, and they signed the empty bottle for me. And I still keep it in the
That's
wine
a
room.
great story.
Yeah.
Who paid for that bill?
I don't remember. I think I have an amnesia about that.
Well,
But also, they brought not only the Stanley Cup, they brought the other two cups, the Conference Cup, and Marchesot brought the MVP Cup. So I had the Stanley Cup in my hands in the wine room.
that's awesome. I think I did see a picture. I think you posted a picture of
Yeah.
that. That's great. Who else has shown? I mean, by the way, that's very cool that the whole team was there. Did you guys close the restaurant for that? Or
No, because they came late. They came around 11.
okay.
So we were able to finish our regular service and then close the restaurant for themselves, but it was after hours.
That's amazing. Who else has showed up to your place that I mean, probably a lot of people, but that you remember?
Yeah, so recently we had Champagne Papi.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
We had Keanu Reeves.
Okay. Well, listen.
Super nice dude.
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg.
Okay.
Probably my favorite was Mike Tyson.
Mike Tyson.
Let me
Okay.
tell you a story about him.
Yeah.
Super nice dude, down to earth. He finished his dinner and he told us, I'm ready for pictures. We didn't want to bother him during his dinner.
Right.
So he goes, I'm ready for pictures, but let's go in the kitchen first. So he went in the kitchen, he went behind the kitchen lines, and he shook hands with every single cook in the kitchen, all the dishwashers, everybody in the kitchen.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he spent time to talk with everybody.
That is very, very
And
cool.
then afterwards, he was like, okay, now I'm ready for you guys.
That that shows a lot. That's somebody that is grateful for the service that you guys gave him, and he started with the back, which in most cases they don't get that much, because they're in the back. They're helping you guys, they're making you guys look good. That's great.
This is what makes big celebrities different.
It's what makes them bigger.
Yeah, not how pretentious they are,
Yeah.
but how down to earth they are, and they don't say no to pictures, and depend on the night you have.
Of course.
But most of the times, the bigger the celebrity, the nicer the person is.
That is awesome. Zack, I want to thank you for coming in today. You gave us a lot of information. I think now we're going to be able to go, at least I will, and be more comfortable next time. I won't get as intimidated when a sommelier comes in and asks me for what to drink. I'll definitely go over my checklist and I'll let him help me. But thank you so much once again, brother.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure. And if you want to follow me on Instagram,
Yes.
my Instagram handle is Vegas_Somm, SOMM, and you can see every single bottle that I open at Barry's. I'll post pictures. I am posting pictures every night.
Yes, I'll make sure to tag you with the video, and he does post all of this incredible wine that he consumes. I highly recommend you guys going to Barry's and visit Zack. He will take care of you, no doubt. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, brother. It was my pleasure.
See ya.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.